I used to believe loyalty was the only currency that truly mattered in a family. I thought it was the thread that kept everything tied together when life tried to tear us apart. But I learned, sometimes the hardest way possible, that when greed creeps in, loyalty becomes worthless. It's like watching a rope snap strand by strand until nothing holds. Before I begin, welcome to Tales Between Time. If you enjoy powerful, true-to-life stories about family, betrayal, and resilience, make sure to stick around. And let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I love seeing the cities and countries this community represents. My name is Ethan. For most of my life, I was the safe one in the family. The dependable son. The brother who had his life together. The one everyone could call when things went sideways. If it was 2 a.m. and my father needed money to pay off a sudden debt, I was there. If my sister's life unraveled, she knew she could lean on me. I became their silent safety net, the invisible glue. But no one ever asked if I was tired of carrying everyone else's weight. They just assumed I was strong enough, successful enough, or responsible enough to handle it all. When my father's construction company in Cape Town faced collapse, I dug into my own savings to bail him out. I remember wiring the money while sitting in my cramped apartment, knowing I had just signed away years of my own hard work. When my sister Amelia's marriage ended in flames in Toronto, I was the one paying for her flight back home, her rent for 6 months, and even her lawyer fees during the divorce. Each time they stumbled, I was there, quiet, uncomplaining, never resentful. At least, that's what I told myself. The truth is, the cracks in me had been spreading for years. By the time I turned 36, I was worn down. My life was a blur of endless workdays, late-night emails, and constant phone calls filled with emergencies that weren't even mine. My own dreams had become background noise. I couldn't remember the last time I did something purely for myself. Not for work, not for family. Just for me. So one evening, sitting in front of my laptop with another request for money buzzing on my phone, I did something reckless, or at least reckless by my standards. I booked a solo trip. Not to some bustling city or fancy resort. No. I wanted silence. Solitude. A breath of air that belonged only to me. I chose a remote fishing village in Portugal. No crowds, no tourist traps, no family. Just me and the Atlantic Ocean. The villa I rented was small, perched on the edge of a cliff where the waves pounded against the rocks like a heartbeat. The kind of place where silence wasn't empty but alive. The first 2 days were perfect. I woke to the cries of seagulls. I lingered over coffee so dark it made my hands tremble. I walked the cobblestone streets, weaving between whitewashed houses with bright blue shutters. I watched fishermen mend their nets beneath olive trees. For the first time in years, I wasn't anyone's solution. I was just Ethan. But peace has a way of being temporary in my world. On the 3rd night, as the sun turned the sky molten gold, I wandered into the town square. The air was filled with the smell of grilled sardines and sea salt. My chest finally felt light. Then I heard it. My name. Not just Ethan, in passing. It was that tone. The one my family always used when they were about to hand me a problem. I turned around. And my heart sank. There they were. My parents. My sister Amelia. Her 2 kids. And even my Uncle Martin, whom I hadn't spoken to in over 5 years. Standing in the middle of this tiny Portuguese square, smiling as if this were some sitcom reunion. Surprise, my mother said, her voice laced with forced cheer. I blinked, stunned. What are you doing here? Turns out Amelia had spotted my travel pictures in an old family group chat I'd long forgotten about. Within days, they all decided to book tickets and surprise me. Not only that, but they hadn't made a single arrangement for their own accommodation. By that same evening, every single one of them had moved into my villa. At first, I tried to convince myself maybe this was a chance. A way to finally feel included, to enjoy being part of a family trip rather than the background support. But that illusion shattered almost immediately. They treated me like their personal tour guide, chauffeur, and, unsurprisingly, the banker. My mother ordered me out at dawn to buy fresh pastries. My uncle borrowed money for a fishing tour and conveniently forgot to pay me back. My father complained about the local coffee and demanded I find imported beans, at my expense. Amelia declared the villa's bed sheets too rough and insisted I purchase silk ones. Every quiet moment I had imagined for myself was swallowed whole by errands, bills, and their endless expectations. By the fifth day, I felt like a stranger in my own trip. A ghost. Present but unseen. I had paid for dinners, groceries, excursions, even a wine-tasting tour I hadn't wanted to attend. I wasn't on vacation anymore. I was financing theirs. The breaking point came at a restaurant on the cliffside. I had saved this spot for my final night, a farewell dinner with myself before returning home. A chance to sit with the ocean and remember that I belonged to me, at least for a moment. But as soon as we sat down, my father lifted his glass. "Ethan's got us covered tonight. Order whatever you want." The table erupted in cheers. They didn't even glance my way. When the bill finally came, it was more than my monthly rent back home. My hands shook as I reached for my card. That's when my mother smiled and patted my arm. "You're such a good boy." Something inside me snapped. I put the card down, but not to pay. I looked at each of them, my parents, my sister, my uncle, and said one word. "No." Silence. I repeated, my voice steady this time. "I'm not your wallet. I'm not your safety net. And I am done being the person who sacrifices while the rest of you take. I'm finished." They stared, wide-eyed, as though I had spoken a foreign language. My mother tried to laugh it off, but I stood up, left the card on the table, and walked away. The sound of the ocean followed me all the way back to the villa. For once, I didn't care where they slept that night, what they ate, or how they managed. When I returned home from Portugal, I did something I never thought I'd have the strength to do. I blocked them. All of them. The endless messages, calls, and requests vanished. My phone became quiet. Peaceful. That silence, the one that used to frighten me, now felt like freedom. I realized something powerful: family isn't defined by blood, or by how much you sacrifice. It's defined by respect, by love that goes both ways. And if you're the only one giving while everyone else takes, that's not family, it's exploitation. So I ask you this: if the people you love treated your care like a bottomless bank account, how long would you keep making deposits before you finally closed it? That was the story of how I stopped being a shadow in my own life. If you've ever felt taken for granted, I hope this reminds you that you're allowed to draw the line. Sometimes walking away is the only way to be free.